For millennia, redheads have been enduring every imaginable prejudice, associating them with evil, Satan, and even vampires. But who would have thought that all these stereotypes, which continue to make life miserable for many redheads even today, can be traced back to ancient Egypt? In ancient Egypt, red was a good color when it symbolized vitality and the setting sun. But it was a bad color when it evoked Set, god of chaos, and the barren desert. In fact, Egypt's territory used to be known as Desheret, or Red Land, while the Nile Valley, in which floods deposited fertile black silt every year, was called Kemet, or Black Land. Up until the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, animals and living beings with red fur or hair were not in any way identified with the evil Set. Some parents even named their children Dasher or Dashery, both of which mean the red or the ginger. But things took a turn halfway through the Middle Kingdom during the 12th dynasty, when more and more Egyptians started worshipping Osiris, god of the dead, who was murdered and hacked to pieces by his brother Set. Abydos, where his head was supposed to have been buried, soon became the largest pilgrimage center in the country. The more Osiris grew in popularity with the ancient Egyptians, the more Set was seen as a particularly evil deity. No one named their children Dasher or Dashery anymore, for fear of incurring the wrath of Osiris or attracting the attention of Set. From this time, people regularly used red ink to write the names of Set, evil deities, and even their enemies. In the Dream Book, the characteristics of Set's followers are described, and surprise, surprise, red-haired men are on the list. They were therefore seen as acting devotees of the god of evil, or possessed by him, which wasn't much better. Red hair is the rarest natural hair color in humans. It's estimated that about only 1% of the world population has red hair. Most of the time, red hair occurs due to a gene mutation. Over time, severe nutritional deficiencies or certain forms of albinism may cause hair to lose its pigment and turn red, regardless of the ethnic origin of the person. In ancient Egypt, the oldest redhead ever found to date is a mummy on display at the British Museum. A man who died in around 3400 before Christ had red hair, earning him the nickname Ginger. Another famous ancient Egyptian redhead is the pharaoh Ramesses II, who lived during the 13th century before Christ. Apart from these two examples, not surprisingly, records of redheads living in the land of pharaohs are extremely rare. During the reign of the Lagids, Set became the icon of evil incarnate, and people focused their hate on animals that evoked him. In the 3rd century before Christ, the priest Manetho reported that men who had links to Set were burned in El Kab. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus reported 2 centuries later that ancient pharaohs sacrificed red heads on the tomb of Osiris. Since there were very few red-headed Egyptians, foreigners were often the ones who were killed. When Egypt became a Roman province between the 1st and the 2nd centuries of the current era, Plutarch wrote that Egyptians would swear at red-headed men. Anti-red-head sentiment, which was confined to Egypt until then, began to spread throughout Greece and the Roman Empire. Then, in the Middle Ages, the Church took over, associating red-heads with Satan, especially women, whom the Church had always feared. Ginger-haired women were increasingly being accused of witchcraft and making pacts with the devil. They were also suspected of having an insatiable sexual appetite, which is not how respectable women were supposed to behave. In 1254, King Louis VI ordered that all prostitutes had to dye their hair red to differentiate them more easily from respectable women. Physicians even went as far as to prevent ginger women from working as nannies, claiming that the milk was hot and harmful to babies. Instead of going away, these silly prejudices kept getting stronger. A folk tale originated in the 16th century about how the sweat of a red-head could make milk curdle, and with her presence alone, a red-headed midwife could prevent a newborn's navel from healing. Ginger women were given all sorts of labels: witch, promiscuous, impure. In 1611, the royal physician of Henry the Great made a list of evil signs that could be found on witches' bodies. Of course, freckles were on the list. When the Inquisition led its violent crackdown on heretics, thousands of ginger men and women were sentenced to death and burned at the stakes. At the beginning of the 9th century, Judas slowly turned into a red-head. It started with his hair, then his beard, to emphasize the fact that Jesus' former disciple was mean, devious, hypocritical, and, above all, a traitor. During the Renaissance, it was Maria Magdalene's turn to get a makeover as a flame-haired temptress. She perfectly fit the image of the sinner that the Church tried so hard to label her as in order to discredit her. Again, no surprises here. Eve is branded with the same hair color in some portraits, and beautiful Delilah, who made her lover Samson reveal the secret of his strength so that she could betray him, gradually became a redhead. While some artists chose to highlight the beauty of ginger women, like what Botticelli did with his famous Venus, it was mainly to paint them as sensual, sexual, and sultry, which is not necessarily flattering. Then, in the 18th century, red hair became a trait that made it possible to identify future Strigoi, Romanian vampires. After having been stigmatized their whole lives, the corpses of ginger men were often nailed to their coffins to prevent them from returning and seeking revenge on the living. The curse of a redhead continued into the Age of Enlightenment, providing inspiration to the creeping anti-Semitism taking root throughout Europe. Even though red hair was common among Ashkenazi Jews, it was not a trait typically seen in the majority of Jews, but it was attributed to them anyway as a stereotype. In literature, as in art, legendary authors like Shakespeare and Dickens made caricatures of their Jewish characters, describing them as redheads and generally portraying them in a negative light. Despite 21st century scientific proof in Europe showing that redheads did not present the defects they used to be accused of not too long ago, and the fact that we are supposed to be better educated now and able to think more critically than people of past centuries, redheads continue to be teased, shamed and harassed on a daily basis, driving some, including children, to suicide. Wouldn't you like to help me to overcome stereotypes?